Hi there, welcome back to Hydroponics Daily. Today we're talking about saffron cultivation in hydroponics. There's a lot of interest in this subject at the moment, so I thought I'd talk about it and give my 2 pennies worth. I'm not an expert when it comes to saffron cultivation. I've never done it, but I'll talk about some of the science behind it. So saffron, as you will know, is a herb or a spice, and it's harvested from the crocus and the true crocus. Crocus sativum, I think is the name. And it is the red stigmas and styles of the flower. So that's the only thing you harvest. You get the female parts of the flower except for the ovary, and you pull it out, you dry it, and that is the spice. And so in hydroponics, there's a lot of interest in it because it's very, very high value. Crazy figures on how valuable it is per kilo. And there are a couple of reasons why it's so valuable. The plant grows from a corm, which is like a cross between a bulb and a potato or tuber. So the corms are lifted from the soil. They're cleaned up, so all the dead leaf material on the outside is removed. They're dipped in a fungicide, and because all the soil-based fungi are on there, and then they're put into racks when they're grown hydroponically. And you can get lots of these corms in a rack, and you can obviously stack these racks in vertical farms. So you get a lot more corms per square meter than you would in the field. Now, saffron's normally grown in Iran in very nutrient-poor soil, and so you don't get many corms per square meter, even when you cultivate it. And mainly the cost comes from the labour costs of picking the saffron, the threads, they're called, the styles and the stigmas. And so if you can get them in vertical farming, you can harvest them a lot easier. Your workforce can do a lot per square meter. However, how do you actually grow this plant? There's not many corm-based plants or even bulb-type plants you can grow hydroponically. So what they tend to do is they get lots of corms in, pack them in, and then they soak them in the fungicide and a bit of nutrient solution, and then over the summer they're going to lie dormant. So if you think about crocus in your garden, you don't see them during the summer, and then during the autumn they are given a cool treatment, and they go down, and then when they start to sprout, they're given an even colder treatment for about a week. Okay, and so when they get to about 10 centimeters, and then you'll get flowers in about 2 weeks after that. So the bulb, all the energy for the styles and stigmas is already in that bulb that you've bought and paid for and put into your rack. So you've already put the upfront costs in there. It's already got the energy to produce the crop in there, so that there's no real lighting or energy cost in there to begin with. So you're talking only a few grams from a tray of bulbs, and then even then they're dried down over a 2-week period once they're harvested, and so they lose most of their weight even then. So that's another reason why it gets very expensive. So you've had your bulbs, and it's an unusual hydroponic crop because you get your crop first, and then you have to think about photosynthesis afterwards. So you then have to grow the plant for a few more months at least to build the energy reserves back up so that you can get a second crop out of these bulbs that you bought. If you just harvest them, you could potentially harvest them and like you would, say, a forced vegetable like the rhubarb when they put them in the or asparagus, but really you want to be getting a second and a third and a fourth crop out of that for your return on investment. So you then start to think about photosynthesis and growing the crop and getting the energy back into the corm for the next time you want to stimulate it into flowering. So you've got to think about how you're going to do that, and you might use DWC. That's one option that's been looked at. Aeroponics has been looked at, and you've got to look at pests and disease as well. So mites and bulb rot are your 2 biggest pests, and that's where they do this. So they do actually do hydroponic saffron in Iran and America. So Iran, where most of the saffron comes from anyway. They also use seaweed extract for biostimulation, getting the roots growing, and they use standard hydroponic fertilizers. So they do that. Now, the question is, how many crops can you get per year? Now, normally in saffron, you only get 1 crop per year. But if you supercharge photosynthesis and you can trick the plant into thinking it's summer and to go dormant, and then you can trick it into thinking it's spring again, maybe once, twice a year or 3 times a year or even 4 times a year, then you could potentially quadruple your crop. I'm not sure if that's done. There's not much information. The videos and the information that's out there has been duplicated. So there's like one YouTube video, and then the information from that has been put into a blog, and then the information from that blog has been put into a YouTube video. So a lot of the information's a bit sketchy out there, what's happening with saffron in Iran. It'd be good to go out there and see. Probably not the best idea at the moment. And people I know have been out to Iran got kidnapped recently, so not the best idea. But we do have some listeners in Iran. I know that. So if you are a listener in Iran in the horticulture sector and you know how many crops of saffron you can achieve per year, then let me know. And if you think it's safe to travel to Iran, invite me over and I'm happy to come over. Be interesting to know that, because if you look on YouTube, there's not much information, but there is a lot of interest worldwide in growing saffron. What can we say about saffron? Don't confuse it with the autumn crocus. That is a poisonous plant we've talked about before. Is used for polyploidy and mutating plants. Definitely don't use that one. Only use that. If you've ever grown saffron hydroponically, let me know. I guess one of the things to consider is the weight, because of all those corms on the shelves. It get pretty heavy compared to a normal crop. Okay, so that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. Saffron. Make sure you control the mites, the fungi. It's a bulb type product. LED lights are used, but also normal sunlight is used in hydroponics in the vertical farms, because it's just that sunny in Iran compared to other places around the world. They can just use all natural light. And yeah, it seems like an interesting one. A lot of interest in it because of its value, but also because it's a hydroponic crop that doesn't grow like any other type of hydroponic crop. So that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. Thanks very much for listening. And if you know someone who grows saffron, perhaps send them this episode so they can have a listen as well. And happy to do a follow-up if I've got this all wrong and there's more information out there. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.